You are listening to the Cookbook Love Podcast with Maggie Green, episode number 392.
Welcome to the Cookbook Love Podcast, a podcast that celebrates cookbook readers, buyers, collectors, writers, and clubs. And now your host, cookbook author, culinary dietitian, and cookbook writing coach, Maggie Green.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Cookbook Love Podcast. How's everybody doing today? All is going well here. I am 3 days away from closing the cart for my launch of Get Paid to Get Published. By the time you hear this, the cart will actually be closed, and I will have enrolled new students inside my Get Paid to Get Published program. Very exciting. Had people buy already. So excited to welcome them in and help them get their deal ready, pitch package ready so that they can become paid cookbook writers. And I had this thought as I was going through building this launch, which is a series of multiple moving parts to enrolling people in a program and actually enrolling people in a yes to themselves, a yes to the dream that they have to write a cookbook so that I can offer expert guidance and they can get support inside a container or community where we work on building our platform, writing our proposal, and building a package to pitch to a publisher. And it came to me and occurred to me about why in our life we do things like this. I obviously earn money from my business and from the books I write, but so this is a job. This is a job for me, but it's more than that. And I want to try to explain why. And I want to connect this also to things that you all might be considering if you want to write a cookbook or embark on a project that's not easy to do. And so being an entrepreneur is a choice for me. I could, if I wanted to earn money with a job in the corporate world, have been earning money that way. But I didn't. I chose this path, and I have been leaning into this path of being an online coach, helping people write cookbooks, writing cookbooks of my own. And what that means is I have to learn this whole online marketing space, which is a hard thing to do. Doesn't come easy. It's not natural. It's just like learning steps of a process and knowing what to do and knowing how to get everything set up. And it's hard, but I have chosen to do it. So what I want to talk about today, before I get too much in the weeds about this introduction, is I want to talk about what really happens when we decide to write a cookbook or to build an online business, and the unexpected benefits specifically of writing the cookbook. So most people think the outcome of writing a cookbook is the book. And of course, that's true. You get a book, you get a finished product. And some people talk about when you can hold the book and cook from the book. What happens when you get to do that and you get to share it? Well, it's truly amazing. But I want to tell you something much bigger happens during the process of writing a cookbook that I have seen happen over and over again in my students, in people who write books, and in anyone who embarks on a hard project by choice. We're changed, and not just in obvious ways. The most interesting thing is that writing cookbooks and building online businesses is not a survival task. Most people who decide to write a cookbook already have successful careers. A lot of my students do. They're pharmacists. They've been running coaches, dietitians, chefs, online entrepreneurs. Maybe they're in the second phase of their life. They've retired, or they're getting ready to retire, or they want to really package their expertise in a book. They already have done work that they care about, and they've served people in meaningful ways. So when they decide to write a cookbook, they're not just doing it because they have to, they're doing it because they choose to. And they choose to take on a project that's creative and challenging and a project that matters to them. I think I started thinking about this after talking to Helen Go in our episode last week about the meaning of baking in her life and how baking can be a meaningful project. What a lot of people don't realize at the beginning is that when you choose to do a project like this, that you are producing more than just a book. You're producing a lot more than just a book. And I'm going to wrap this up with talking about the 25 unexpected things that we produce when we embark on book writing. And you don't end up just creating the book. You have created something that will live and benefit your life in numerous ways far beyond your own kitchen. Now, again, we're going to specifically talk about a cookbook, and the ideas in this episode apply to really any meaningful creative project. And of course, they apply to what I've been doing as I perfect the process to launch a product online. Many of you who are listening may be writing a cookbook. Maybe you're writing other kinds of books. Maybe you're building a food business. You're teaching cooking classes. You're working on documenting family recipes. Some of you are developing recipes or sharing your own work online. All of these projects require the same thing. They require, first of all, the choice to do something that's meaningful, and the fact that it's going to be hard is just something that you recognize up front. I used to think that hard was a story we told ourselves, but that's not necessarily true. Hard is hard. Hard is hard because it's new, but we can still inject some joy and fun in it all along the way. I've often told this a story, but when I started having children, I was in my 30s, and I knew that raising children, I've heard people talk about it being hard. The dominant narrative was it's hard and you're going to be crazy busy. But I really decided to change the narrative about the way I thought about raising kids. And my thought always was, Maggie, let's just pretend we're on vacation. And what that meant to me is have some fun with the kids and enjoy them and let them experience the joy of being children. Because my narrative about how I felt while I was raising kids, I knew would be the way that I ended up feeling at the end of the process. And it worked. I had great times with them, and we injected a lot of joy into my life and into theirs. Things weren't always perfect. I would never want to teach them to drive again, but it was, for the most part, when we're looking down the hatch toward out the rearview mirror, it was a joyful time, and we did have a lot of fun together. So that's a choice. So we get to choose to do work like writing books. We get to choose to do work like creating online programs, being an online entrepreneur, or the other things that I mentioned that you guys might be doing. Building businesses, teaching classes, documenting recipes, whatever it is. Okay, so what we're going to do is explore what really happens when we decide to do something hard, like write a cookbook, and why we're choosing work like this can really, truly be one of the most rewarding things we ever do in life. So number one, most hard things in life that we have to do, we don't always choose. Living a financial life and paying bills, caring for family that's elderly or ill, caring for our own health if we don't have good health. There are just some things in life that we do not choose that are truly hard to do. But I want to differentiate this episode between writing a cookbook because it's different. It is a chosen challenge. You don't need to write a cookbook to survive. I don't need to run an online business to survive. And I do not need to do any creative project, or you guys to do any creative project to survive. If you're doing this for survival, it's a whole different category. So what I'm talking about is a chosen challenge, one where something inside you says, I want to do this matters, and this work is worth doing. So we choose a meaningful hard thing. It changes how we experience the work because, first of all, it activates our agency. We realize that we have chosen this and that we decided to create something meaningful. I think that's very, very important because every time I get in the weeds about how hard writing a cookbook might be or running an online business might be, I tell myself, Maggie, you chose to do this. This was your choice. No one's holding my feet to the fire. No one's making me do this. Same thing for this podcast. I am here because I chose it and because I want to be here. And for everything that I have done that I've been committed to for a long term, even being married for over 35 years, I choose it. And it activates my agency. That is so, so powerful. So please, if you get nothing else from this episode, take a look at the things in your life creatively that you are choosing to do and activate your agency. Give yourself some credit. Yes, you're doing some hard things, maybe that you didn't choose, but also there's a lot of joy possibly available to us if we activate our agency and choose to do hard things and become a different person on the other end. Because that's what actually happens. We think the value of writing the cookbook is the finished book, but the real value is what happens to us while we're doing the work. I've had pharmacists write cookbooks in my programs, running coaches, dietitians, passionate home cooks, and people move from this thing where they say, I have an idea to write a book, to I actually created the book. And this identity shift changes how people show up in their work and in the world. They get to think of themselves in a whole new way. They're no longer just a pharmacist or a running coach or a dietitian. They're also now a cookbook author. And hard things become meaningful, first of all, I think, when we choose to do them with other people. This is why people often, if they set out to run a marathon, and that is a choice to run a marathon, a choice to see who they can become, a marathon runner, and to choose to do it with a group. They join a running group inside a community. So they're not alone in the day-to-day hard work of training to run a marathon. It's the same thing with people that are in my cookbook writing programs. They're not alone. They're not working alone. Writers work alone a lot, and people who are writing cookbooks spend a lot of time by themselves, and sometimes that can be isolating. But if you're trying to do some creative project and it's new and it's been hard or it is hard, gather and get some community. It can feel shared energy. It can be energizing, hard work that's shared. It's like everybody, think about a horse pulling a plow. If there's a single horse, they've got to pull all the work by themselves. But if you put 5 horses on the plow, it just gets pulled a whole lot easier. It's shared, energizing ability to actually work in community with somebody. So I think that we can make the work more meaningful and make the hard a little bit easier if we join a community. I'm getting ready to take a print making class I think it starts at the end of the month. It's a 4-night class. I've always wanted to learn how to make prints, like linoleum cut prints. So I signed up for a class. I'm going to be in a community. There's going to be a teacher. They're going to walk us through the process. I'm sure it's going to be hard, but I'm choosing to do it. And I can't wait to get in there and see what I learn and be with other people who are also learning the same thing. So community does help. The other thing that's I find valuable is that work for me, like cooking and writing, have always been meditative for me. So I get a lot of joy in my life from slowing down to do those things. And that is part of the work of writing a cookbook. But I play music in the kitchen. I'll play podcasts in the kitchen. I love getting the ingredients on the counter. I love gathering the ingredients, developing the recipe, at my desk doing research, remembering where dishes come from, writing the story behind them. And this creative work in the kitchen and with writing connects me to my senses, connects me to my memory, develops my ability to pay attention, remember details. And so the outcome of this is I'm paying more attention and being intentional in my own life and slowing down and being present to the ingredients and to the words. So the meditative quality of what we do, and people often say this is true with things like needlework, maybe it's cross stitch or crochet or knitting, journaling, things that really cause us to have to sit down and slow down in order to work. There's a joyful meditative quality to that. So that's wonderful, a wonderful outcome as well. And then also, if something is hard, we don't have to be miserable if it's hard work. I think that is the thing that I have always tried to articulate, and I wasn't always able to put it into words, but I was able to try to live it. Hard work does not have to be miserable, meaning we don't have to be miserable people just because we're doing hard work. Hard work that we chose to do. Let's imagine that we want to have a vegetable garden in our backyard, and we're going to have to dig up a patch of ground, till the ground, get out the rocks, work the clay, work in some topsoil, plant the seeds, keep things weeded, keep them watered. It's a hard project. But if we choose to do it, we can have some fun and it can be joyful while we're doing it. And playing music always helps. Developing new routines helps. Experimenting with new gardening techniques helps. And this is the place where we really can truly turn something new and hard into something that is also a little bit more fun. And we look at it as a creative practice and ways that we can add some joy to it rather than just making it a miserable project. And then the last thing is not the last thing, but the next thing is that I think that sometimes writing a cookbook can be something that we can use to improve our health. So that's an unexpected outcome would be how it might make us healthier. And I want you to think about this. If you're desiring to write a cookbook and you have an area of your life that you need to improve your health for, what if you used the project that you choose to become healthier while you write the book? I did this when I wrote my book, Essential Pantry, the Plant-Based Pantry. I don't know if I've told this story before, but I think I have, but in case you haven't heard it, my daughter came home from high school and said she wanted to be vegan. And I said, great, we can do that, but we're going to do it the right way, and we're going to not eat macaroni and cheese and dinner rolls all the time. So I was already working on a cookbook called The Essential Pantry, Streamline Your Ingredients and Simplify Your Meals, as a manuscript for a book. And then I decided I was going to write a companion book at the same time, 2 cookbooks, and one was going to be the Plant-Based Pantry, and one was going to be just a regular pantry, contain meat, dairy, and eggs in the other book. And in the course of writing that book, an unintended benefit was my cholesterol dropped like 50 points because I committed to eat like she wanted to eat. We learned things together, and I had excluded meat, dairy, and eggs from my diet. This is not a prescription. I'm just telling you a story. And there was a health benefit to it for me in the midst of writing that book. So for this podcast, that got me to thinking, what if an unintended outcome of writing a cookbook could be for you that you use the writing of the book as a way to improve your own health and write about it? Share recipes about it, talk about it, share the stories of it, because our own personal transformation sometimes can happen as a result of the book we're writing or be the fuel for the book we're writing. Sometimes an unintended side consequence of writing cookbooks is that people have a decline in their health. Maybe if they have to test a bunch of recipes in a short period of time, they taste them themselves, they're spending a lot of time sitting, they could experience an increase in blood pressure, or increase in blood lipids. They could maybe even gain weight. I've heard of that happening to authors. But a benefit could be that we use books to actually improve our health, for better health and well-being. So just think about that. You could feed yourself and your family and cook more intentionally, and cook and write together can become a way to better health and better well-being instead of actually having it something that's detrimental to your health. So I hope that you can see that it's not just the book, but along the way, benefits appear. It's not just the creative project. Along the way, benefits appear. So I want to read you my list of 25 things that I believe are unexpected benefits of writing the book. We become more organized with our recipes. We get to clarify our point of view about food. We get to see ourselves as an author. We get to experience finishing a large creative project. We learn creative discipline. We lead ourselves as cookbook writers. We learn how to explain cooking processes clearly. We discover forgotten food stories. We cook more intentionally. We improve our ability to teach others. We gain confidence by sharing our ideas out in the world. We build a body of work. We create a tangible product that people can hold and cook from, people that we don't even meet. We strengthen our professional credibility. We connect with other cookbook writers. We develop productive routines. We work through our doubt. We discover future ideas for future books or projects. We create, because you want to talk about one way, I'm going to expand on that one a little bit. One way to really explode your ideas is make yourself focus on one narrow topic for a long period of time. And one of the things that happens a lot of times with self-sabotage is then all these other ideas are going to pop up. But I've learned that if I'm focusing on one thing and my brain serves me another idea, the purpose of the idea is not to derail me. I just keep a notebook by my computer and I write down what the idea is. It happens all the time. Even when I'm working, like today I sat down and said, okay, I have 3 things I want to accomplish today. It's Friday, kind of my follow-up day. I've got things I want to do. I immediately started getting like, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this. And I'm like, nope, I got to do these 3 things. But I listened to my brain. I wrote down the other things. So they're on a piece of paper. They're duly noted. But if you want to really create a lot of ideas, focus on just a few things and watch your brain go to work and try to derail you. So I'm done with that little side rail that it happens to me all the time. What also happens then is we create intellectual property. That means that we have a system or a process or something that we have developed from our brain, and that's intellectual property. We build a resource for our community. Doors open to speaking and media engagements. We develop our relationship with food. We develop a storytelling voice. We experience the satisfaction of completing a project, and we become someone who turns just our ideas into real, tangible things. So I believe that choosing meaningful, hard, creative projects to do is very powerful. Writing a cookbook is one of them. It's a challenging project. It's not a survival project. It is a chosen challenge, but it's so joyful. It can be full of fun. It builds identity, creates community, and deepens our relationship with food, writing, and creativity. And in the end, the cookbook writing process is more than just creating the book. It truly becomes a record of who you became while you were creating it. The person who's more organized, who finishes things, who's connected, who's built a body of work, all those things that I just mentioned. That's who you become when you write a book. If you are interested in getting paid to write a cookbook of your own, so there's a free masterclass. You can head over to www.cookbookwritersacademy.com/getpaidmasterclass. I will put that link in the show notes, and you can sign up for the class, enjoy the free training, and get on the wait list for our next opening of Get Paid to Get Published. So that's it for this episode of the Cookbook Love Podcast. This is your host, Maggie Green, and until next time, have a great day and keep loving your cookbooks.
Thanks for listening to the Cookbook Love Podcast. You can find out more information at www.cookbooklove.co.